Welcome to a new weekly podcast from the Leeds Rhinos. It's the Leeds Rhinos Podcast. Each week we'll come direct from AMT Headingley, giving you a wrap-up of all the Rhinos action over the previous weekend and looking ahead to what's to come. And we've got people from the inner sanctum joining us from the coaching team to talk through the games and look ahead to what's to come. And I'm delighted, our very first guest is our new assistant coach, Jamie Langley. Jamie, great to have you at the club. Before we get into Saturday's game and looking ahead to Wakefield this week, how have you enjoyed being part of the Rhinos since coming over from Sale Sharks?
Well, firstly, thanks for having me on. It's really exciting, obviously, and proud to be the first guest on the show. Yeah, it's been great. I've loved it, Phil. Every single moment of it. A little bit of a whirlwind, first and foremost, obviously transitioning from Sale to Leeds. Back to rugby league. Obviously, I had to switch my hats pretty quickly. And it took me a week or so to get up to speed and just get my eye in. But everyone at the club were fantastic. Everybody I came across, everybody I'd met, the people I didn't know from before, really welcoming. First impressions, really impressed with the club. Just felt like on the field, off the field, everything were done the right way. And as I say, everybody were really, really welcoming. The coaching staff have been fantastic, helped to integrate me back in to the system, and the playing group as well have been really, really good. Some of the old players, new players alike. So I've really enjoyed my time so far.
And that transition from Union to League, mid-season, you're already working with Sale, and then you come into the Rhinos. In terms of that mind switch, how was that?
Yeah, as I say, it took me about a week or so, because I caught up with Lisi and BA midweek, and then pretty much hit the ground running the week after. So it took a good week or so just to get my head around things. I mean, I spent 3 years in rugby union, so although left rugby league, you feel like you're up to speed with everything, but it just takes a while to get back into it. The games are very different. And as you said, we were 6 or 7 games into a campaign at that point as well. So switching back from league mode to pre-season mode took a little bit of time. But other than that, it was a pretty smooth transition. As I say, it's like riding a bike, really. You pick things up gradually, and BA chucked us in at the deep end really once I think he got a gauge on what I were about and our philosophies and things like that were aligned. So I think he had the trust there just to say, well, once you've got your foot in the door, Langers, just crack on, and that's what we've done.
And were you always hoping to come back to the league? You had a successful early period down at London, your coaching career, and you went across the Union, but did you always have that feeling you might come back across?
Yeah, you never know. Like, I've never tried to plan too far ahead. Obviously got the opportunity at Sale and I jumped at the chance. There's not that many of the opportunities that are going to come across your desk, so I thought I'll give it a crack, and did 3 years over there, really enjoyed it. Like, I had to learn the sport from scratch. I'd never really watched rugby union, never played rugby union as a young lad, so rugby league through and through. So it took me about 18 months to try and get my head around that and get up to speed and how the game works. And then, as I say, after that time, I was quite confident. I could watch a game and enjoy the game, actually knowing what was going on. So it is very different, technically, tactically. The sport's played very different with the set piece elements and the kicking strategies and all those pieces of the jigsaw that get fit together. Yeah, I always kept my eye on my league. Like, I've been a rugby league lad, grew up playing league, and my dad played league here at Leeds. So it's always been in my blood. I've always enjoyed it. So although I was in rugby union and fully immersed in it, if league were on the telly, I'd still keep my eye on and watch a few games. And I got a lot of friends still involved in the game, coaching and playing as well. So from that perspective, I thought maybe one day I might make the transition over. I just never knew when that may be.
And when we look back on pre-season, the work the players have put through, Brad's talked about the intensity with what we've done involved. Is that something you've been part of that as well, particularly the bits of the game you look after? Yeah,
I mean, again, I haven't got the context really to gauge it against what the lads have done previously. I've been in rugby union for 3 years. Different sport, different demands on the players. I know certainly when I was at London, because we didn't have a great deal of money to spend, we didn't probably have the most talented playing group. We knew one thing we could hang us hat on were our fitness, our resilience, our robustness. Mike Eccles was head of performance at that time, and under Hendo and Wardy as well. We run a really tough programme down there. You speak to any of the boys who've been there and gone through that programme, will verify that. And you get data and you speak to people at other clubs, and I reckon we were doing as much, if not more, than anyone at that time. with the group of players we had. And that's why I think we were able to compete, when we had that year in Super League and probably battered well above what we should have done that season. And then coming to Leeds, just speaking to the playing group and obviously spending a bit of time with BA and the coach as well, it sounds like I think we've pushed the boys to the edge of what this group is capable of probably in this moment in time, based on like the volume and load what they've had over the previous years. Obviously you can't push someone to breaking point if they've not got that resilience and robustness to back it up. But we certainly feel like we've been right on the edge with them. Copped a couple of soft tissues, which I think if you're not pushing performance and exceeding certain limits, you're not working hard enough. So you're willing to accept that as long as you're not getting the ones that are avoidable. And I don't think we've done that. We had Tommy Olroyd got a quad, and unfortunately Lockie's not been with the squad. He's been through his rehab program, and he's still working through that. But other than that, I feel like with the amount of load we've put on the boys, certainly from a running and a contact perspective, we've worked really, really hard in those areas. I'm sure the boys will probably verify that as well, but we've come out the other side of it. We've come through the pre-season games, thankfully, with not much collateral. So we're going into the season, hopefully, a very fit, very robust, very resilient group of players.
And BA's talks about executing skill under fatigue as well. That's, when you see the guys train, they're doing a lot of conditioning stuff, but then going straight back into ball work as well. And presumably that's key when you get into the game situation. You've got to do it. You've got to take that opportunity when it arises on the field.
Yeah, you do, yeah. I mean, there's different training methodologies. Every coach has got a different philosophy. There's many ways of doing things, and there's probably no right and wrong, really. It's what's right for the group. But I'd always lean on the side of, let's chuck them in the deep end and see how they travel. And then you can always bring it back to the areas you feel like you need to fix or fault correct. But, I've never been a big believer in, starting slow, small pitch, block skill. You could do that for weeks on end, but it's just not transferable. Like, you get in the cauldron of a Super League game against a tough opposition who are trying to do the same to you as you are to them. You need to be able to execute those skills under fatigue, when the bullets are flying. And, I think the best way to do that is to put the boys through it in training. We've done very minimal small picture work. We've done a lot of bigger picture, thrown quite a lot of chaos in there as well at the players and challenged them to see how they respond. And certainly from a defensive perspective, I've been looking after quite a bit of the defence, and you don't want perfect pictures. Like, if we get through a week and we've had minimal system errors and the boys are coming up trumps, then although for the ego it's pretty good, it's not good for development. So I like them to fail in training. I want them to fail fast and learn fast. So put them in situations where they're probably going to be having to think the most, when they're the most fatigue, under most duress, whatever those situations may be, so we can fail fast and learn and grow quicker. So that's been some of the methodology throughout the pre-season, and I'm glad BA's sort of brought that over as well, because it's something that I believe in, and I think that it's probably the best way to fast-track the players to get them to where you need them to be.
Yeah, it's interesting this time of year, isn't it, when we're gearing up for the start of the season, and certain teams, there hasn't been much change. You think of that Wigan squad, they've not made a whole host of changes, so really they're fine-tuning what they're really good at, but we've had quite a number of changes, new personnel on and off the field, so to see how that all pans out when we get into the season will be quite interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, cohesion, I mean, it's well known that cohesion plays a large part in success. You think about the Leeds teams of a bygone era, I think they had pretty much that core group of players who stuck together from academy age all the way through to retirement almost. And the most successful teams now in the world, most successful sporting organisations, no matter what sport, I think cohesion is right at the top in terms of one of the things that they're going after. So the more time you can spend together on the field, working on connections and combinations, it's really, really important, definitely. And that's why Wigan have been so successful. You look at their player turnover, it's been minimal. They might bring one or two in every year. You get your young players coming through your system who, when they do slot in, it's almost autonomic. So they're not looking to recruit guys from foreign systems, and it takes a year or 18 months to get up to speed. So yeah, with this group we've had 1 or 2 new players, but Falls, Crofty, brought Jake into the spine, but Ackers have all had a year together now, so their cohesion's going to be a lot stronger. We've got a core group of players there, like your leaders in terms of Cam, Ash, Harry's come on a lot, in that space. You've got your Maccas, your Micks, all them sort of lads who've been here a while now, with a few new signings sprinkled in. You bring Orley back in, but he's familiar with the surroundings, and it's like he's never been away. So I think it is really important to get that time together. But you've also got to be super, super shrewd with your recruitment. So if you are bringing lads in, either from a similar system, similar coaching, have they played here before? Do they know the players? And all these things have got to be considered, really, because it plays a massive part.
Is there anyone that surprised you? That, obviously from the outside looking in at a squad, you don't really know what people are like, but actually maybe some preconceptions when you come in and actually when you got to work with them, they've surprised you?
Again, like I said, I'd been out of the game for 3 years, really. So although I'd watched it a little bit, I know familiar with certain players and personalities and things like that. Obviously, I'm familiar. I may have played against Ash, maybe. I don't know. I think I just missed out with Cam. I might have just retired as he was coming on scene, but just to see how they go about the business, to see Ash up close, like really impressive, like as a player, like very athletic, the way he moves, it's very instinctive. To move into centre's not an easy transition, and just the way he's able to take on instruction and then execute it. I've been impressed with that. Cam, definitely. Again, like watching him and admiring him from afar, but just seeing how he manages that middle unit, like his ability to execute time and time again under fatigue, and like his communication skills really, really good. All has been impressive. He's nearly as old as me, but like he's a hell of a lot fitter than I am, and he's not missed a rep all pre-season. That's what you want your senior players to do, come in and set an example and lead by example. So he's been really, really good. And then some of the young players who I weren't familiar with, like your Riley Lums. Riley's had to come in and really step up, obviously losing Sieves, unfortunately, in that Wigan game. And again, another lad who probably not that much experience, but you give him instructions and he's able to take it on board really, really quickly in a very difficult position. And probably lastly, like Jake Connor. I did play against Jake, I remember a couple of times. We're actually talking about it. We're saying, did you play in that game at Odsall when you smashed us at Huddersfield when I think they put a young side out, and might have been his debut. I've really enjoyed spending time with Jake, and he loves his rugby league. He's a very intelligent player. You can tell he's been in some pretty good systems, and he cares deeply about his game. And I think anything he does do, he's a bit of a wind-up merchant. There's intention behind it as well. So I think he's pretty clever and crafty in that sense. So, yeah, just all the boys have been great, to be fair. As I say, I've really enjoyed working with them.
Looking more specifically to last Saturday, the start of the, hopefully, we hope the road to Wembley and the Betfred Challenge Cup against West Warriors. Clearly a side we knew very little or nothing about in the build-up to it. Brad was very clear early on that he was going to play his strongest side available against him. What was the thinking behind that within the coaching team?
We had some conversations early because these sort of things can, certainly from a playing perspective, I've been a player myself, and as soon as it's announced that you're either playing West Warriors, the Army or the RAF, you get a few of the boys saying, is he going to play me in that? Or like, I don't know, I would say him as a player, you drew Workington away in Cup, you're thinking, is this coach going to play me in this one, or is he going to give one of younger fellas a run? And you just think the sooner you can address those little conversations and murmurings, the better, really. And I think, like BA, one of his strengths is, his integrity, and he values that greatly. And he said from day one, he'll always give the players clarity. Everything he instructs them to do will be black and white. And I think he said very, very early doors that he wants to build a winning mentality at this club, and at any given opportunity he will pick the best available side, with a few caveats, if lads need game time or there's any medical concerns. The lads were on board straight away. I remember BA addressing the boys, and they're all sat there nodding their heads like, yeah, we're behind this, we understand the reasons why. There's a clear rationale as to why we're doing it this way, and also, gives respect to the opposition as well. And we were fortunate to get West up here and have a run. I'm sure they had a great weekend as well. And that was the conversation early doors. And even when Sieves got hurt, you think, well, you might have a bit of a wobble and think, do we want to risk these lads? But nah, we'll stick to his guns. You can't go into training or games worried about getting injured. So the decision was made early and we all stuck to it and lads bought in and that was that.
Yeah, I think there was two really telling things for me watching the game. That seriousness, putting out a proper team, playing a proper game, was on last tackle options. If something wasn't on, we weren't just trying to come up with something that would never work in a Super League game. Oftentimes we were just finishing the set and defending, as you would in a Super League game. And then the respect between the two squads after the game when they come in, they knew they'd given everything to it. The guys who, when Sam Lozani's bringing the ball back from the back fence there, putting their bodies on the line for their teammates. I think it just really encapsulated, both teams' spirit about that game.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. As I say, credit to them lads. They came up and it was a big physical challenge for them. But I thought they scrambled hard. Whenever we poked his noses through or made half a break, they were there. There were bodies in the frame. And like you said, to front up to people like Big Sammy coming off back fence, it's not a mean feat, that is it. So I think they did really well, credit to them. And to our boys as well, when we set our intentions for the game and the lads were very clear in terms of what they wanted to go after as well. And discipline and back in the system, believing in the system and concentration so we don't incur any system errors, essentially, both sides of the ball. We're right at the top of the list in terms of what we wanted to go after in that game. We give 4 penalties away. All 4 of them were controllable. We've done a bit of education on it today. And as you said earlier, in terms of our systems, both sides of the ball, we're pretty squeaky clean. So I think the game were played in the best spirits. And yeah, whether they decide to stick with that format next year or not, who knows? But hopefully everybody got something out of the day.
And one of the dark clouds on the day was Jack Sinfield going off injured. Now, hopefully, there's some good news on that. I've just seen Jack, and he seems to be walking okay. A bit of bruise, a bit of soreness there. But I thought overall he had a great game as well. Started the game at hooker, then moved into the halves. In terms of giving lads those options as well, it worked pretty well as a game. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, because we knew we wanted to move Jack to half back and give him some game time at both 9 and 7 for Crofty. So rather than wasting 2 subs on it, we thought we'd give Cine a start. Ackers has done more minutes than we predicted and hoped he would do through pre-season anyway, with Jock being injured in that early doors in that Boxing Day game. So we knew Ackers were up to speed anyway with his volume. And to give Cine a bit of game time, invaluable for him. He's done a great job pre-season, been real physical. I think he's shocked a few of the boys with his physicality, to be fair, in middle at field. They've got a new found respect for him. He can bar up in the middle there and mix it with the big boys, which he has done. But I guess lesson learned, just pass the ball, Jack. We had, I think, 2 or 3 man overlap. He's put it to the boot. But yeah, it were an accident, their kid, it were a complete accident. He's charged the ball down, Jack scuffed the floor. He's walking okay, we get his scan results back tonight, which will be Monday night, and then we'll take it from there with him. But yeah, he seems okay.
And just finally on the Betfred Challenge Cup, the draw's come up on Saturday. Your old club got into the hat. They beat Casford over at Oddsall. You fancy the Bulls here?
It'd be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah, it'd be nice. I was thinking that. Yeah, if we could draw Bradford or more away, it'd be good. There's a lot of good teams in the hat, so all you can hope for really is an home draw, isn't it? Really, I guess. But if you get drawn away, then so be it. It's a knockout competition. Every game's for keeps. So we've put some things in place for the Challenge Cup with the boys and trying to make it feel special and a bit different to the league. So we launched all that last week, but we are now obviously solely focused on round 1 of the Super League, and we'll see what comes next in the Challenge Cup. But yeah, we're sort of zoned in now, laser focus on Wakefield.
And that is a perfect segue into talking about Wakefield on Saturday afternoon here at AMT Headingley. What are you expecting from the Trinity side?
Yeah, they've been really good pre-season. We obviously got a little look at them on Boxing Day. They had a few lads on the sidelines that day, some of the marquee signings. Big Mikey and Tom Johnson obviously were rested that day. From what I've seen when they played Castleford and obviously the Gould game, from what you can read into it, they're playing a very expansive style of rugby. They're moving the ball a lot, a lot of ball movement, playing to width a lot. They've got some physical forwards who like to ramp up, and they're not shying away from contact as well, and some experienced players in there. Obviously with Mikey and bringing Tom on board, you got Jake Truman who's getting back to where he can be as a Super League player. Obviously he's had an unfortunate couple of years as Jay, but it's good to see him back in the fold as well. Daryl's a brilliant coach. We all know that. He knows his way around the traps, and he'll have them fully prepared. They got a bit of a look at us on Boxing Day. We've improved since then, I'd like to feel as well. So yeah, I think it's going to be an hard challenge for us coming up against this team, this Wakefield team. They've got a lot of aspirations this season. They're talking about top 6, and obviously Matt Ellis has come in and spent a few quid on it and spent a bit of money on the squad. So yeah, it's going to be a challenge. Yeah,
it does feel like a new era for Wakefield, doesn't it? I mean, you never choose to be relegated, but they really have used it to restart and reset as a club. And they've had the building work done at their home ground, and they'll really want to keep that momentum up from last year, from getting up and then coming here, biggest game of the season against the Rhinos. It makes it a mouthwatering clash.
It does, yeah. It's going to be a good crowd. We're aware of that, and I'm from Normanton originally, so a lot of my mates are Wakey fans, and they'll be at the game, no doubt. I think they're bringing 1,000 over, aren't they, or more? So yeah, it's going to be an hell of an atmosphere. I think they've done a great job. Sometimes, like, the strongest foundation is rock bottom in it, and it has to happen. You have to take a couple of steps back to move forwards again. And we're unfortunate. That's how it happened. And it was a hard year for Mark Applegarth, who I speak to quite a bit as well that time. And they're certainly on the right trajectory, aren't they? And been away from rugby league for them 3 years, and casting my eyes over the Super League table at the end of the season and seeing like one Yorkshire team who were in the top 6, or like Hull KR have been flying the flag. Like, that's, as a Yorkshireman, that's cut me a bit. So and we start to see some of those Yorkshire clubs toppling some of these clubs from over the Pennines. That'd be nice.
And just finally, announced today a new recruit coming in, Ethan Clark-Wood. What can we expect from Ethan? I know Brad spoke to him last week, and what he's going to add to our squad.
Yeah, well, obviously Receiv's picking up his injury. We had a bit of space there to bolster the squad and had a bit more depth. So Ethan, he's been on the periphery now at a couple of clubs. He's been at the Roosters and currently at the Gold Coast, and not quite had his opportunity at NRL, but he's certainly got some qualities, the qualities that we'd look for. Very dynamic, he's powerful, he's elusive as a ball carrier. He plays with good physicality, which is something we want to hang his hat on, certainly going forward this season. So I'm hoping that once he gets up to speed with the systems, both sides of the ball, that it could be a really good asset for us.
Well, thanks, Jamie, for joining us for our first episode of the Leeds Rhinos podcast. We're going to have a special episode each Thursday, as well as the Monday edition, which is Any Questions. So if you email info@therhinos.co.uk with your questions, we'll go around the club and we'll get the answers for you. It can be anything, whether it's from a playing side, but around the stadium or how the club's run. Send in your questions and we'll have a special edition each Thursday answering your questions so that we can keep you informed of what's happening here at the Rhinos. Great to have you on board, Jamie. We look forward to the start of the new Betfred Super League this coming Saturday when Wakefield Trinity are in town. We can't wait. Thanks for joining us.